G'day, I'm Paul. Thanks for dropping by. This week it's all about the Mudgee region. Now I've done the Mudgee region a little bit different to most other people. I won't be talking about the wineries and the foodieries and all that sort of stuff. Be able to tell you where to camp, what to see. I went from Mudgee to Gulgong, to Rylstone and then to Kandos. Now Mudgee, great place, excellent for camping. Gulgong is the real gem. So in Gulgong there's a handful of museums, and I got an exclusive to go inside and have a look at the school that Henry Lawson went to when he was a little nipper. Also there's a little bit more about Henry Lawson and about some fantastic museum in Gulgong called the Holtermann Museum. You've got to go there. Anywho, let's go. Good morning, top of the morning to you. It's a beautiful day in here at Sofala, just out of Sofala. I'm just about to leave the absolute tranquil, outstanding little babbling brook, kangaroos everywhere, and the glistening of the sun through the water-tipped trees, and head off towards Mudgee, the wine district. So that should be fun. And just better make certain everything's locked up and bolted down and head off. Close up the door. I've already fired up the turbos, so all we have to do now, hopefully, I know what I have to do, is wipe down the wet windscreen and the sides so I can see out of the glass. Woohoo! Here we go. Now, everything's bolted down, hopefully. Just have to back up probably 50 metres. Okay, caravan reversing camera's fired up. Took a while because, long story, I disconnected it. Now I've got the wheel chocks off, taken off the leveller, so it should be okay to go. Doing it by yourself without someone there to give you direction can be a bit of a stress, especially if you're listening for bang, oh that was too far. All good. I'm just going to go and check everything's, all the chains and everything are on, just in case. Can never be too careful. What I normally do is I just have a quick look, but I also look under the carriageway in between the car and the caravan, make certain there's nothing dragging down and nothing flapping in the breeze. Off we go. Good morning, top of the morning to you. I'm still in Mudgee, beautiful little town, very quaint and very sort of historical in its feel. Got lots of wineries, great place for foodies and people that like wine. Just a matter of interest, they specialise in red wine here, not that it really matters. Yeah, some really nice places, and the call into the tourist office, they're very, very helpful. They gave me a book, and they then, every second or third page, they've got like a little breakdown of a town. So the towns they cover is Mudgee, Rylstone, where I'm going to tomorrow, which is Gulgong, and there's some really great photo opportunities in that town, so I want to go and check that out. And I've been given the sort of the key to the door to Henry Lawson's old school, so apparently that's not available to everyone. They're opening that up for me tomorrow, so hopefully that'll be pretty exciting to check that out. And the birds here are the galahs. There's a lot of them, and yeah, but they're a lot of fun. They squawk a bit and they hang around in big gangs. The accommodation here is great, lots of big area at the showgrounds, and they've got nice hot showers and water, and yeah, it's real good. Next to a real big oval. I'm very excited to be in the Eurunderee primary school. Now this is it's a reincarnation slightly of the original. The original school that Henry Lawson went to had a bark hut roof. So that just gives you some idea, but pretty much everything else is more or less how it was way back when. And that's in the late 1800s. Sitting in one of the classroom seats, unfortunately not exactly typical of that year, but certainly give you some sort of an indication of this would be somewhat similar to a classroom that Henry Lawson attended to here in Eurunderee School back in the 1870s, thereabouts. I'll give you the exact date because we want to be precise. But he was here, he went to this school, and yeah, it's very exciting. So I'm going to give you an email if you wanted to get in contact with the person who can give you access to this. Otherwise, no one has access to this building. And you can discover some of the early things, his classroom, the roll call and things like that for Henry Lawson. Absolutely fascinating. I'm standing out at the front of Lawson's monument, which is just up the road from the Lawson School. And basically what happened, this is where Lawson's home was, his parents' place. But unfortunately back quite some years ago, and it would have happened anyway, the place got into pretty poor repair, so they ripped the whole thing down and all they left was the chimney. I'm standing out the front of Henry Lawson Centre. Now if you're into Henry Lawson and his books or poems, it's a great place to come. I even managed to pick up one of his second-hand books, so I haven't had much exposure with Henry Lawson, so I'll check that out. It's great inside there. It tells you all about his history. It's got photos, it's got his actual handwriting on the parchment. The whole thing talks about when he was young, as a teenager. He went deaf. I went and looked at his school just up the road, and there's just so many more things. So not even sure if I bothered to take a photo inside, but it's well worth it. It's got all the history about it. It's got some examples of his work. It tells you about his love life at the beginning, at the middle and at the end, and what he ended up with when he died, which is not a lot. Now, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Henry Lawson's dad, Peter Lawson, by the way, it's Larson, L-A-R-S-E-N. We call it Lawson for whatever reason. That's probably another story. Henry Lawson's father, Peter, was a builder, and the house just behind me was built in the 1880s for Henry Lawson's auntie, and it's still here, fully structural, great condition. It's a private residence, so you can't go in and check it out, but that's pretty amazing. As I said, it looks in pretty jolly good condition. I'm out the front of the Gulgong Pioneer Museum. Now treat yourself, it costs almost nothing, it's worth checking out. There's a couple of museums in town, this is one of them. Now inside, it starts off a little, then it has a hallway, and then it has a doorway, and it just opens up this labyrinth of incredible things. They've set up an old kitchen and an old bakery, a bedroom, this is back in the time. They've got machinery, they've got an entire printing press, they've got, you name it, they've got it, and a couple of old cars. So I would definitely recommend it. Check this out, it's called the Gulgong Pioneer Museum. I'm in Gulgong, and I'm just up on a place called Red Hill. This is where Tom Saunders first found gold in 1870. Over there in the background you can see the poppet head, and you can also see the stamp battery that they used back in the day. If you're up here, you can do a thing they call the gold experience, pay your money, and then you go down into the little made-up mine, as you can kind of get the feel of what happened, and also you can read some of the history of it down there. I'm in the Holtermann Museum. Now this is an outstanding place. Basically what they've done is Holtermann commissioned these professional photographers to take photos of the time, and Gulgong is where a lot of these photos were taken. Quite a long, complex history of it, but when you come to the museum you find out all about it. Here's something quite amazing. The $10 bill that came out in around about 1966, which is the first $10 bill, had a picture on it of Henry Lawson, and there was about a dozen, I think, other little photos of different parts of a town, and that parts of the town were Gulgong. And yeah, so when you come here you can get all the history of the first $10 bill and Henry Lawson, who was got a lot to do with Gulgong. When I was in Hill End, they've got a replica of this at the History Hill Museum, so that's, I think I mentioned before, that's worth going out to see. And I'm currently in the Holtermann Museum in Gulgong. This gives you the idea of how big that actually, I should stand up on it, that's how big it was. Now, sometimes they'll call it a specimen and sometimes they'll call it a nugget. But basically it's the biggest alluvial specimen / nugget that they had found, and it was found by, I think, 3 or 4 guys, and all those guys become extremely wealthy. And Holtermann was Holtermann was in on this deal. So all those little traces of steel are of gold. Amazing, beautiful. And so for those who are into it, there's 93.2 kilograms of gold, but the whole unit was 285 kilograms. And where they found it was, as I mentioned to you before, was 40 metres down on the Hawkins Hill. And with that they also found a few other pretty handy nuggets. So not a bad little find way down there. Apparently when they discovered it, it was just literally a wall of gold. Now I just want to share this with you. This is an ongoing video they've got running inside the museum. It's absolutely awesome. Now what they've done is they've taken the glass plates, they've blown them up to as big as what they can comfortably blow them up, and they've deliberately made them so they're around about human size, and then it runs through all these videos. It's just absolutely outstanding to see how they lived back in those days. This is back in the 1870s, and when you come to the museum you'll also see a long piece which is just all the bits of glass, and they've joined them all together, which gives you an incredible panorama of the whole Gulgong area. Seriously, this is well worth coming to see. Here's something you can give to the community. You probably already do, but I do it as often as I can. So to get your gas cylinders refilled, what I do is I use an app on my phone. I've got an Android, probably can get it the same for iPhones. It's called Gas Finder. Now what you do is you go in there, it basically just tells you all of the places that will give you either a gas swap or a gas refill, and hopefully it's reasonably up to date. But sometimes you go in and you'll find, for instance, Bunnings would charge $25. So rather than just rock on down to Bunnings and find out it was actually $30.65, you can give them a call and make certain it's updated, because that one I'm talking about, $25, I'm here in Mudgee, and I had a look at it, and that's what they were charging at Bunnings. But then when I looked at last time it was updated, it was July 2021, so that's 2 years ago. Gave them a call and it's $30.85 from memory. So I found around a couple of places. Turns out there's a little local bloke who does pumps here in Mudgee, and he charges $25.63 or something. So he's my man. So it might not be a bad idea. Sometimes when I've got a bit of time and I really put my mind to it, I'll try and do as many little gas finder updates as I can within a town. Just helps the future people coming through find out the cheapest place to get your gas. And here's my gas cylinder all topped up. Now, I don't often do this, but I am slightly old school, and sometimes when I jot down notes I really need to have them actually printed in front of me so I can modify them. So I bought the office out of the caravan into the bush. Just going to print 2 pages. Don't be worried that I'm wasting paper or the trees. Perfect. It took a little while, but the little men in there, they were running trying to find the ink and squirt it in, and worked perfectly. I'll sit down and make some more notes and then we'll start filming. How you doing? I'm in Rylstone, as in Rylstone cowboy? No, that's Rhinestone. So Rylstone is it's a little town. It's has what they call a historical precinct. What that means is all the facades, all the old facades inside the main street, have to stay original as they were back in the 1860s. So that makes it really, really quaint. Got a great little yum cha here, which I checked out. You might want to check that out if you're into that kind of food. And yeah, it's just a nice little town, but it's pretty cold. So yeah, call into this little place. It's a great little place. From here I'm going to Kandos. Here at Kandos Museum, it's quite amazing to go through, check it out. Doesn't cost too much to get in, and basically they'll show you different examples of the type of rock they used. So it's basically calcium carbonate is the rock that they would be using, and in this photo here you can see it in crystal form, and in this photo it's just in a simple rock form. They used to call it Rylstone marble, I believe, and in fact they used that particular rock is used in Sydney. They used it as literally as a marble, polished marble, in the Commonwealth Bank in Martin Place. But I digress. So yeah, in there what they would do is they would get this rock and they'd mix it all up and they'd put in a special recipe, and that special recipe would end up making cement. And the cement they used here was basically the cement they used in the making of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So there's a fact for you. The other thing is, I consider, having gone in and seen the various bits and bobs around, that it was worth it because they've got a video of them making in the Sydney Harbour Bridge. It's really old footage and I'm not sure if it's available anywhere else, but it was absolutely fascinating. So I think it's value there for just doing that alone. Here I am at Kandos. Now this is unlikely to happen to you unless you're lucky like me. I've been very chosen because I was asking around. Apparently there's a train coming through, a steam train, so that should be happening any minute, so that'll be quite exciting to see. It's coming from Sydney, I think, and going up all the way to Rylstone, which is the next suburb, called a suburb, and then back. It's going to do a little shuttle and then back to Sydney. So stand by, I think it's going to any minute. Well, that was the Mudgee region. I did try quite hard to get some free camping, but in that whole Mudgee wine area, it is very hard to get free camping. Places that I did stay were pretty good value, especially with hot showers. Loved that. Now, if you found the video useful, helpful and or entertaining, please give it a thumbs up. If you think the video is worth sharing, I'd appreciate it. And until next time, this is Paul Will Drive, signing off.